Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an episode of Deadmen Plays. This is our inaugural maiden voyage episode, and for that we've picked a very special game to play for you guys. A very obscure but extremely fun Smash Brothers clone called Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion XL for the PlayStation 3. Essentially what this game is, as I said, it's a Smash Brothers clone using characters from Cartoon Network franchises. But what surprised me about this one is not only how robust the roster is and how far back it goes, but the fact that they actually made a story mode for this. A lot of other games that ripped off Smash Brothers with their own characters didn't usually take the Subspace Emissary part, but Cartoon Network actually did their own story with their own characters, mix and matching. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, it's no The Last of Us, or it's no Bioshock Infinite, but just the fact that they did it, you know, for what could have very easily been a really stupid cash-in game, is actually one of the best Smash Brothers clones I've played. Take that with a grain of salt, of course, but I thought it'd be worth giving a shot, so let's get started.
Choose a character.
The game starts us out with Ben Tennyson as our first, and as you can see, there's a very wide variety of characters we're going to unlock as we go. So, as you guys know from my other show on DeadmenInk.com...
and welcome to... Hey, wait a minute. I've been hosting so much, I'm actually introing on my day off. I finally got some me time to put on my casual tights, snuggle up, and watch my favorite shows. Let's see what's on Cartoon Network. Dexter's on. What's Dexter working on there?
So, the story's really not much to write home about, but
Is this the one
I must say in general,
a travel machine? Whoa, no.
The way they do the cutscenes in this is just beautiful.
Look out, Dexter! Hey, I was watching that. Who flipped the channel? What's this? The K&D Sector 5 treehouse. Where's number 1? This doesn't look good.
And everybody died.
What a disaster! What's happening to these worlds? Man, you know, things are getting bad when even the Grim Reaper stands on the brink of annihilation.
He's got a valid point there.
Wait, that's Phil Gas, Ben 10's enemy. But what's he doing in Chowder's world? This is so messed up. Yes, Ben Tennyson. Finally, a hero who can help.
So, the thing I find interesting about this is that,
Ben's in Chowder's world. This ought to be like taking candy from a baby, or food from a world whose whole economy is based on food.
The thing I find so interesting about this game is,
Man, these bad guys are not just going to let you move on, so if you want to make it to the end of the episode...
like I was saying, the thing I like about this game is that, hopefully we won't go through too much of that tutorial dialogue there, but, the thing I find so interesting about this is the fact that, you know, these Cartoon Network franchises come from just several years apart, and the idea that they are able to still have just enough similarities in their art styles where they can get them all into one place without having them clash too much, I think is actually kind of a good testament to the quality of this game. Not to say that Cartoon Network franchises are less creative because of the fact that they match up with the art styles so much, but I do find it interesting that they were able to come up with such a fun medium between the different art styles. I mean, sure, Smash Bros. Does this as well, but I feel that there may be a little bit more of a difference between these franchises because they span... with Smash Brothers, they kind of created their own art style for Smash Brothers. There's a lot more neutral, while this one does sort of the same thing. The thing I find interesting about this one, though, is that, the genres come a little bit more sparse, in my opinion. I mean, and especially since they go to the trouble of showing that off so much more. In Smash Brothers, you find yourself in a lot more franchise-neutral environments more than anything. And in this one, you're very immediately in an environment of sharing amongst different universes. And they don't start out with safe ones either. I mean, we're in Chowder World as Ben Tennyson. I mean, it's it doesn't get much more spread out than that as far as the kind of characters and people they choose to work with.
Wow, now that was some exciting television.
Levels in this usually stay pretty short, just based on their environments, but they stay pretty fast moving, and they the only thing that kind of bugs me, the fact is that you have to, like you can see here, you have to reselect your characters every time you do one of these smaller levels. But like I was saying, like, I like the chances they take with this series.
Hey, it's Chowder. Maybe he can help Ben. Hey, wait a minute. What's wrong with him? Something's not right here.
Hey!
Got quite a few of the voice actors back for the series, too, so that's a big help. And as you can tell, they haven't really explained in the story, but we are kind of going off a little bit of the, characters turned evil by outside forces kind of thing. That's our excuse of why we can go around and beat up all of our favorite characters without feeling bad about it. And, this is your first time to see what the normal Smash Brothers style multiplayer combat looks like, which, as you would assume, functions almost exactly like Smash Brothers. And it doesn't help much that the particular character I'm playing as, Ben Tennyson, there's a couple characters in this game that aren't the best balanced in the world. This would definitely be an example of one of them.
Hey, real nice job at not losing.
If you're a really old school Cartoon Network fan, you might actually recognize the voice of the narrator there. The narrator is actually the voice of the original Space Ghost. Not to be confused with Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which was a show that played off of that a little bit. But the original Space Ghost show from back in the 80s, which was a bunch of fun, and the show would definitely be getting around to I'll definitely be getting around to that on Saturday Morning Fever, which for those of you guys who aren't aware of it, on our actual website deadmenink.com, I run a show called Saturday Morning Fever, where I talk about Saturday morning cartoon shows from multiple different eras and have a lot of fun going through some of the weird ones.
Chowder's back to normal. Well, as normal as Chowder gets, anyways. And he's teaming up with Ben.
Now you can see with Chowder, they technically listed as Chowder and Kimchi, so you'd assume it's sort of go in kind of the Ice Climbers direction, but not quite as much as you would think. Unlike some Space Emissary, though, when you're playing one player, I like the fact that you can actually change your character on the fly. That's actually something legitimately this game does that Smash Bros. Doesn't, which is that's something you see often. Control-wise, it is pretty much exactly Smash Brothers. Super attack button, special button, normal hits, way you do recoveries, or the way enemies fling off of board when enough damage is taken, that kind of thing.
Oh, moving platforms. This episode is heating up. Time your jumps carefully.
And I like the format of this as well, just because between the series, I like the idea that they kind of string this whole thing around as like an literal episodic format. So whenever you get onto the next level, it almost, the aesthetic of going from world to world feels like a fun little tune in next time kind of affair. And that can be a lot of fun to work with. Now, I guess it's about time I start actually commenting on a couple of these shows, I guess.
These platforms will fall from right under your feet if you stand on them for too long.
I guess it's about time I comment on some of the actual shows themselves. Now, Chowder, the one I'm playing right now, is probably one I'm the least familiar with. Chowder is one of the newer shows on this list of games. Because surprisingly, even when this game launched, most of the games on this list were not games directly under syndication at the time. They were all older properties that had been off the air for years. Which is not something you see very often out of games like this. You'd think they'd just be promoting the new shows like crazy. But they apparently knew right off the bat that it was these older characters that were the ones that they were really interested in. A lesson that I think PlayStation All-Stars could have learned better. I know some of them were lost because of rights issues, but in general, that was my main complaint with PlayStation All-Stars. I felt that the heart was in the right place, but I felt that the character roster wasn't in the place that they wanted it to be. At least that people wanted it to be, for the most part. Now, you kind of have Final Smashes in this game as well, but they're more in the PlayStation All-Stars format, where the Final Smashes are mainly fixed on filling up a power meter rather than getting a specific super object. Yeah, but Chowder the Show, it had some interesting characters, and I like the art style of the show in general.
Long ways down. Don't bump into too many things, or you'll make...
And my main problem in general was just that the show seemed a little bit over the top, and it's just kind of a weird thing to say out of a guy who watches, you know, older school cartoon shows, but I just felt like the show at times was very, very intense and how ridiculous and colorful and everything. Like, after a while, if there's too many colors and it gets too large in its amounts of insanity without any specific direction, you can kind of get overwhelmed after a while. And I will say, as much as it would have been cool,
some exciting television.
It would have been cool to see this game embrace having full voice acting, but I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen from the get-go.
Ben Tennyson, Chowder and Kimchi.
And that's fine. I embrace that these games don't usually have the largest budgets in the world, and it can be tricky to get the entire voice cast for the whole thing. But considering they do try to get a more storied approach, it would have been a nice touch.
Hey.
Hello there. Okay, everyone met each other now? Are we through? Can we fight now?
I do like the sense of humor in this game. It cuts off a little bit early sometimes, but they do not shy away from the surrealness that this game brings in, of just how insane these worlds can be. And I do like the fact that, I mean, although it is an escort mission, I like the idea that they do vary the exact, they do vary the objectives of the multiple missions and the things like that. It keeps everything really fast moving, and it helps keep the levels be so much more interesting. Like I said, the game also actually makes a pretty good balance between the player-specific enemies and the ones kind of created for the story themselves. The enemy roster is actually pretty diverse. I mean, we've only seen a couple so far, but like, it's better than just, in normal games like this, you would assume you'd have even more generic, just placeholder enemies. Which I guess these night guys kind of are, but at the same point, when you contrast that with a broccoli holding the wood gun, which is not as dirty as it sounds. Then you end up with something really unique. The game kind of goes back and forth between sort of these brawler type sections and sections that have a little bit more of the platforming elements to them. And surprisingly, I like both of them quite a bit. Chowder is now my favorite character in the world to play with. I actually find that Ben is a lot more fun in general because he's got a lot more direct firepower. Chowder is kind of more gimmicky. He's a little bit more off the wall. We wanted to get right down to brass tacks. I think that Ben 10's a really fun one to play with. Just because of the fact that he's a lot more aggressive. Now, speaking of shows we were talking about here, let's talk about Ben 10 for a minute. Ben 10 actually was actually a bigger hit for Cartoon Network than some people might realize. They had 3 different sub-seasons. of the show, and they were constantly changing art styles and stuff like that.
I like what you're doing out there.
But on top of the art style changes, they actually also did time warps throughout the show. Like, we actually like age and, you know, take on new content that way, which is actually pretty interesting as well.
Ben Tennyson, chowder and kimchi.
And as far as the actual overall content of the show, I like the fact that it was trying to take a little bit more of a darker angle than most of the shows on Cartoon Network at the time. And the characters were very likable, and the animation was fast-moving.
Ultimatrix detects dimensional disturbance.
Ah, snap! Now, wait just a minute. We're in Bellwood, which doesn't look pretty. Time to get to the bottom of this evil plot.
Who could it be?
Chowder, this is one Buttercup you don't want to mess with. Buttercup versus Ben 10? I'm gonna pop up some old poppycorn and kick back and enjoy this.
Buttercup would absolutely destroy him. I'm sorry, but absolutely destroy him.
Hey.
But yeah, they also, just like Smash Bros. Does, they kind of experiment around with the idea of these kind of team-up kind of things in their storyline as well. But I also like the idea that, like, it feeds into the whole TV atmosphere as well, because of the fact that they kind of, like with the narrator set, you know, they kind of have their own fun with the premise, with the way that they kind of joke around, like, ooh, this is gonna be a lot of fun. And I like that idea and how they do this. As far as, like, your actual environments for fighting and having slight interactions, I think the environments are really interesting. And like I said, compared to other Smash Bros. Clones, they don't really use, like, station-neutral environments for these kind of things. They actually take really good environments from the multiple different shows. And as you'll see later on, there's quite a few shows they pull from to get a very large number of courses. Probably, I think, approximately like 3 per show overall. And in this case, even, you can see they actually even switch environments mid-course, which is kind of a neat idea as well.
You've just hit rock bottom.
And they even have assist trophies, just like the show did as well, which shows off how Cartoon Network actually does have a wide enough variety of characters and stuff to pull from that, you know, there's an incentive to do stuff like that, to have assist trophies and the like. Not to mention, occasionally you do actually have items from multiple shows that show up and do all sorts of interesting things. There's a Man-Dark assist trophy. That's a nice one. Although I kind of wish Mandar was a character, I'm not going to lie. I think he would have been a nice addition to the roster, and they could have come up with a couple of ways to keep him different enough from Dexter that they could have had some serious fun with it.
Snap. Super attack.
Well, that gotta hurt. I do like the writing in this quite a bit.
All right. This calls for some Mr. Smoothie.
And so now we add another character to our roster. That's kind of the way you'll see that this game kind of goes, is that as you go, you kind of unlock more characters for your roster, and
Ben Tennyson.
as you go farther into the story. Seem to have a little bit of a technical issue here. One moment.
Buttercup. Chowder and kimchi.
So let's see what this game has to offer us next. Loading screens are... I wish they were a little bit more exciting, but I'll make do.
Hey.
Some of the stock dialogue is a little bit annoying at times, I'll admit. Now, having Vilgax as a first villain, I think is a good idea because he's one of the, you know, he's
a slippery customer, which makes sense given he has a squid face.
Just because I think that starting off with a little bit more of a serious villain like that, I think is a good move because it allows you to kind of justify.
Take out these loonies before they blow themselves up.
Justifies them getting away with a more motivated villain. Like Vilgax is like just kind of your stereotypical evil, at least in this context, and that can help you just get away with them trying to hold, like, you know, the quote-unquote real villain for later. As spoiler alert, you can kind of tell that Vilgax isn't going to be the villain for the entire series. There's the wrench. I feel like I'm in the Adam West TV show movie. It's with a giant wrench hitting everyone in the boat. Just BAM! Whack! Although technically I feel like turning into giant aliens should be more effective than, you know, giant wrench. But, you know, who do I know? When you're, you know, in a universe like this, I think it's just better not to question these things. Let's do a little bit of Buttercup gameplay, shall we? We haven't got a chance to play as her yet. Actually, you'd think that all three of the Powerpuff Girls would feel like super similar in a game like this, but I actually am very surprised at how much I like the differing gameplay styles of the three Powerpuff Girls, but we'll get to the rest of them later.
Who are you calling cute?
We weren't able to get all the voice actors to return, but they got quite a few of them, and I'm glad that they were able to. As you can tell, for better or for worse, a lot of the final smashes, I'm just going to refer to them because I really don't want to call them anything else, kind of feel like exact copies of the versions from Smash Brothers in a way. But speaking of things kind of ripped off from Smash Brothers, but yeah, this I guess technically would qualify a little bit as I'm just going to call it an homage to be a little bit more on the nicer side. But I do enjoy the fact that they are so dedicated to changing up the gameplay. It's like I said, it's an effort that is not usually given to other kinds of Smash Bros. Clones like this, and it's very much appreciated. It keeps everything moving at a pretty decent pace, and I like that about this storyline. It doesn't feel like a chore to get through. I actually, you know, you get excited to figure out what's going to come next because the fact that they, oh, the puns. Makes you excited to figure out what's going to happen next because they keep things so interesting. Actually, like I said, the Powerpuff Girls are really fun to play with. They're a little bit more of the really in-your-face brawling type because just based on the kind of game that this is, not every single character from these franchises is immediately drawn for combat. So some of them they have to try a little bit harder to actually give the character somewhat of a combat focus. Powerpuff Girls don't have that problem at all. So converting them to this kind of game for a combat focus is not something that's difficult for them at all. And there's been a couple in the past, but I know for the longest time there's been a lot of people that wishes there was really a great definitive Powerpuff Girls game. And they're really, to my knowledge, I haven't been able to find one that like really satisfies me. And for so far, I've said of all the versions I've played, oh, this is getting cheap. Oh, you are so gonna get it. I don't know what is up with this controller, but all right, you know what?
That's gonna leave a mark.
Are you kidding me? Wow. Okay then, this is getting personal. Let's go back to Ben for a minute here, just because maybe that'll help me change things up a little bit. I know AI in some games like this can be cheap sometimes, but my goodness was that annoying. Hopefully we don't have to deal with anything more like that again in the near future. But like I said, man, I say like I said a lot, but you know, you'll learn. There's not really a great example out there I can think of that was like, yeah, this is a great, awesome, play it right away Powerpuff Girls fighting game, or many really awesome definitive games for many of these franchises at all, let alone if a fighting game to call their own.
Hi. Hi.
Lock and load. It looks like you can aim and use the turret to destroy any obstacles in your way. This is going to be a blast. Literally.
Yeah, the pun gameplay is not going anywhere. So I guess, yeah, more and more varied gameplay styles. And I mean, sure, there's still simple little shmup kind of little spin-off little things. But, you know, you'd be amazed at how far, you know, a little bit of that can go a long way. Just a little bit of these tiny little mini games done at just the right amount can make the slog of constantly going through more and more of these levels just changed up just a little bit, just to keep it interesting. And it's far from perfect by any means, but you know, it's effort. It's real effort, and that effort goes a long ways. It's nice to see franchises like this that have every option and every right in the world, really, as far as the kind of money they're expecting to make, to just cash in stuff like this. And a lot of the time, all these companies don't see the benefit in just putting in just a little bit more time, a little bit more creativity to a game. And just that little bit can take a game like this that would normally be just a forgettable mess into actually a fighting game that I come back to. A fighting game I was willing to actually track down and was legitimately interested in doing a Let's Play of. And I have to give this game kudos for that. I mean, even now, we've only seen 3 of, you know, about a roster of almost 20-ish characters, I think. And these are probably some of the safer of those characters as well. All 3 of the characters we've had so far, with the exception of Chowder, are from franchises that the fighting kind of comes naturally to. And even with Chowder, that's creative enough to not have to think too far outside the box. Well, we kind of knew he was going to be here. We were tracking him down this whole time.
It's hero time!
And one more level down.
Buttercup. Ben Tennis, Chowder, and Kimchi.
Now, hopefully we'll unlock some more characters here in a minute. I think we're going to start out with a boss battle, though. Ooh, new environment.
Hey!
I am Bill Gax.
Is he trying to be like do a Groot impersonation here? Or what's going? What the? Oh, it's Kevin 11.
It's Kevin Levin. And he looks like he fell from the ugly
Oh
alien
man, so many
tree
puns.
and hit every ugly alien branch on the way down. And landed in an ugly puddle. And then sat in it for a while. What I'm saying is he's really ugly looking.
Humor in this game could be on the
Someone on premises paid up their property insurance.
humor in this game is a little bit on the drier side, but I can't say I don't enjoy it. For those guys who aren't familiar with the Ben 10 series, if I remember correctly, Ken Levin It is hard to say that kind of stuff with a straight face. Anyways, trying to replicate a form of Ben's powers instead of being able to switch from one power to the next was cursed with being stuck in a little bits and pieces of all of his different powers put together, rather. This guy's got quite a bit of health on him. I'm actually gonna have to start like paying attention and trying to do a better job.
That happen, or even have that happen.
Shoot. It's nice to see, like, man, I wish I could say more every so often than just, like, it's nice to see effort, but, I mean, look at this. I mean, sure, like, quality like this should really be taken for granted, but unfortunately, like, the fact that this isn't at least standard, like what we're seeing here, like, this level of effort isn't just expected, is kind of sad, to be honest. Like, not to say that this is just bare minimum, but the fact that, you know, this is considered above and beyond, like, even as little as this is, just, I feel that should make me more upset than it does. Just more as a reflection of, you know, how far behind other games are to this. It is kind of disappointing, to be honest. But they twist. It's sad I don't think she's playable, though. That's kind of a disappointment. Man, this is so neat. This is just, it's so neat to see. I gotta start using new words. It is, I find it so refreshing. This is kind of compelling, to be honest. And it doesn't hurt either. That, I mean, these aren't even my franchises. I mean, I'm a big Cartoon Network person, but like, this is me, you know, geeking out over, you know, someone else's fandom, essentially. I'm not a Ben 10 person, really, almost at all. I mean, I like the show, but it's nothing compared to some of these other shows, despite the fact that they got so much stuff out of it, including, not a lot of people remember, but there was these atrocious live-action Ben 10 movies. This is a poor excuse to try to make terrible CGI versions of the various Ben 10 transformations, but they ended up as this absolute jumbled mess, and there was not much to recommend at all out of those movies. They're pretty dreadful. Well, I'm sure they're not saying anything important if they're just going to pantomime it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they got, once again, some more of that hypnotism magic going on here.
Dude. Dude.
The dimension. Okay, so they're splitting the universes in this game by dimension. That's kind of interesting.
Here it comes again.
Guess there's another word for channel.
Wonder where this train is headed to now. Wait, what's this thing? Dexter! It's Dexter! He's done it! Maybe. Huh. What is this thing?
Oh, now we get to some good shows.
Get Flapjack inside your capsule before something terrible happens. Something like being attacked by pirates.
Now that's clever. I didn't even realize that that was something that they could do.
Nothing wrong with that performance.
Obviously
Good job.
they can do it, but like it's kind of an interesting idea, taking two different franchises that both have pirates in them and using that as a neutral ground between them. And having Candy the Candy Beard, Sticky Beard, I think it was, from Kids Next Door interact with the Flapjack universe. That's clever. It's time for your adventure.
Boy genius.
Let's take a minute for sure here, just to make a reference to as many of you know, the death of Christy Cavanaugh, the voice of Dexter, just recently. It's been a big toll on a lot of people in the voice acting community, and a lot of people that were big fans of a lot of these older 90s television shows. She was the voice of several characters that a lot of people have come to know and love, including Dexter's Laboratory. I feel bad that I don't know off the top of my head if she actually donated any of her work to this game in particular, but her voice acting work cannot be understated to its importance to the animated medium, and just want to make sure I spoke of that. Now back to the fun stuff. I don't think I've ever actually played as Flapjack in this game, or at least enough to tell exactly what's going on. But yeah, Flapjack is another one of those characters, like I said, that isn't necessarily built for combat. So it's interesting to see the kind of stuff they come up with. Just trying to base various angles of his personality into different things they're going to pull off. One of the few characters I found so far that actually has a charge mechanic. Where did they go? Music is kind of stock in this game. Not too good, not too bad. It is what it is. Textures ain't bad, though. Gotta say. Once again, nothing to write home about, but, I mean, it's clean. It's, it does have an art style that really is its own. I mean, it feels worked on. It feels like someone put some thought into it, which is always a good thing, as said a billion times by now, but the candy aesthetic's kind of nice in this. Especially because on top of just the pirate thing, there's the connection to candy with the whole Sticky Beard comparison as well that works really well for this. And I love how quickly the game transitions smartly between its platforming sections and its combat sections.
Or teeter-totter. Whatever it is, keep it level so you can fire off the cannon. Don't stand too long on one end or you'll fall in the ocean.
So the cannons have to be... Well, that's kind of neat. You have to keep the center in order to fire the various cannons. Okay. That's an interesting mechanic. It's got some merit to it.
Ground attacks won't do anything against these bird brains.
Oh, enemies are only going to be attacked from the air. That's nice. Not literally only attacked from the air, but you can tell that's where your main tactic is coming in. The seagulls, on the other hand, they have to be attacked from the air, apparently. Let's wait for that last one to come back around. That's a bit of a jump. Aha! Something tells me we got a bit of a platforming mechanic coming up ahead of us. Hey, it's Captain Knuckles. I really hope he does not say that on every single line. Oh boy, that's gonna hurt in a little couple hours. And we just unlocked Captain Knuckles, so I forgot he was playable in this. That's kind of neat. Platforming feels pretty solid. It doesn't really feel janky at all. It feels quite consistent. I know a lot of games are built on lower budgets. Just for budgetary reasons, it's ironic that they always pick to be platformers because they're cheap. But just because they're cheap doesn't necessarily mean they're good. Like, even as budget titles, they can often fail as platformers. Which is surprising, because, like, for a lot of budgetary people, that feels like that's even, like, the only thing they can actually pull off. Well, that's a fun one. Alright, let's take out a couple more of these pirates here. Flapjack is a little bit more difficult to use than the other characters, but not too much so. The fact that they actually do the boomerang mechanic correctly is a nice touch, giving it a little bit more ranged combat. And it's a standard special with some range to it. It's one of the, like I said earlier, he's got a charged tickle mechanic. That's kind of fun.
Come on. The pirates have cannonballs, and you get a slingshot. Well, that seems like a pretty even match. You can use the slingshot to fling stuff over great lengths to hit at distant targets. The farther back you pull, the farther the object will fly.
Let's give this a shot then. So we got a little bit of a, feels like that arrow flash game. You know what I mean? Like we've got the stickmen shooting mechanics at each other. I mean, technically I should say it feels like Angry Birds, but that didn't. Well, wasn't a thing when this game came out, and I don't even know what year this came out in, but I'm sure it was before Angry Birds. Plus, I don't think that game needs any more PR. I'm surprised they're not making it shoot back at us, because otherwise it's kind of ruining the difficulty mechanic here. Regardless, it's kind of fun. Whoops! That would be a bit of a miss. That was a warm-up. That doesn't count. Effective, not as epic looking, but effective. Yay! Total and utter destruction. His running animation's quite cute. And once again, it's nice to see another universe this is a third universe I think we've visited so far, and it still shows how this art style does a really good job of accommodating to the multiple art styles. Where Flapjack is done in sort of a surrealist, like I said, Flapjack is done in somewhat of a surrealist animation style. Well, not surrealist, it's more, I'm trying to think of how to explain his art style. It's supposed to look more painted, I think would be the way I explain it. Like, it looks similar to, like, kind of the fantastical way that people portray, like, pirate paintings and stuff like that. Like, sort of like the opening painting in SpongeBob when, you know, that does the, you know, are we ready, kids kind of thing. The whole thing has sort of a ye old parody aesthetic to it. But somehow that's, despite the art style having more of those realistic tendencies, the actual characters, on the other hand, the actual models of characters, feel very, very separated from that specifically. Is an evil chicken. I'm only playing on normal difficulty. You'd be amazed at, like, how much, like, you can't turn your brain off in this game. It actually takes, like, you know, focus and, you know, trying. Thanks, sea monster. Like I said, the art styles contrast with the more painted look of the show between the personalities of the characters and the looks of like characters like Flapjack and other character models don't fit that aesthetic at all.
Hey, real nice job at not losing.
So that's 3 different worlds we've gotten to see so far. We saw a boss battle. We saw the way that the different characters interact with each other, and it's really cool to see the way that even just with that far into the story that haven't really figured out much about what's going on, but they're taking advantage of the opportunities they have with the different characters they have to work with and the jumping between worlds and making characters actually interact with each other. And I think that's where the meat and bones of the story comes in. And that is where we're going to leave off for today. But do not worry, we will be coming back to complete our run of the Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion storyline. And then eventually we'll get some other guys in DeadmenInk.com, and we're going to be doing some fun multiplayer once all of our characters are unlocked. Until next time, check out more of our content at DeadmenInk.com in order to be filled in on all of our various shows. And feel free to also check out our latest episode of Saturday Morning Fever, where, like I said, I'm going to be talking about multiple different Cartoon Network shows and all sorts of other Saturday morning cartoon shows as the weeks go on. So until next time, my name is Ken Johnson, and I'll see you later.